Good afternoon, Coolest Coast. It's time for Coffee on the Coast Book Banter. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Coffee on the Coast. This is an episode of Book Banter where Laura Schreiner, Manitowoc Public Librarian, joins us for this episode. You know, Laura, I just realized it says you're Lisa D.
It does because I'm using her office. Very fortunately, my office is too dark and I don't really have a very good microphone. So maybe it would have worked for me. I would have been sitting in the dark with no sound. Might have been better for any viewers, but whatever. I mean, we thought
No,
that
we
wasn't very effective. So.
definitely want your reviews. We definitely want to hear those reviews. Okay, so viewers, just so you know, this is Laura Schreiner, librarian with Manitowoc Public Library. I'm your host today, Tina Prigge. So, Laura, last time you had a number of recommendations, which you always do when you join us on the show, and I had a chance to read 3 of them since we last met, and they were all excellent. So I just want to remind viewers, in case you haven't and you want to check them out, Atmosphere, Taylor Jenkins Reid, wonderful story. I loved it. You know, on the cover it says a love story,
Yeah.
and I realized it's a love story not only to space, but there's like a personal love, and then there's the love for her family, taking care of her niece. Just beautiful all around.
It is beautiful. I love it. Yeah, and it was so well timed with the Artemis crew. I mean, it predated the Artemis crew by quite a bit, but it's still really popular, and it all kind of fits together.
Yeah, it was on my holds list for about 6 months, and I kept thinking, should I just knock it off and add something additional, But I'm so glad that I waited. It was
I'm
worth the
glad you did
wait.
too. Yeah, it's very good.
I also listened to the book club for troublesome women. That was an excellent recommendation.
Loved it. We love that one. Like we just can't talk about that one enough. And like again, not that far back in history, how things have changed for women. Wow. Eye
Yeah,
opening. Yeah.
yeah. Thank goodness there were women like this, right? That were kind of
Yeah.
trailblazing, that were willing
You
to push
bet.
the envelope.
You bet. And some of these were just, I shouldn't say just, some of these are average women. That's how things can start change though.
Yeah, you know, in that book they reference The Feminine
Yeah.
Mystique by Betty Friedan.
Mhm.
Is that a book that you've read?
I've never read that book. No, no. I was
Okay.
aware of the book, but I've never read it. I didn't realize how seminal and groundbreaking it must have been, started or a tide across this country. We're too young to know that, but it had to have been, wow, just earth shattering at that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about seeing if I could track it down. I wonder if it's still a relevant
It
read.
should be. It should be a classic. I don't know if we own it. We really should. Um, and if we don't, we can borrow it from another library. But we really need to have that book. If we don't, I should check into that. I will. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, and the other one that you recommended was Heartwood, and that was a really interesting kind of adventure
Yeah.
mystery set on the trails of the
Yeah.
Appalachian Trails.
Yeah, yeah. It was reminiscent a little bit of A Walk in the Woods, which is a nonfiction by Bill Bryson. And there's been things like Wild, which is nonfiction. There's been those kind of hiking stories. This is fiction, but it was really good. I thought it was heartwarming, and about sticking to things and dogs maybe helping out in ways. We just had that conversation. Things like that. So yeah,
I love it. So thank you. So thank you for taking the time and for curating your recommendations. I know you've got some more for us today, so let's
sure,
dive right in.
sure.
One of them is This Time Tomorrow by Emma
Okay.
Straub.
Yeah, and to be honest, some of these I ended up with, and this is one of them, I ended up with on Libby just because I had finished everything I was listening to. I'm on a really long holds list, and so I just grabbed something that's available. This happened to be one of them. This is not new. This is from 2022, I believe. Wow, is this a good book? I
Oh,
just stumbled onto it. I'm aware of her as an author. I didn't realize the author Peter Straub was her dad. I should have put that together. He was a horror thriller kind of writer. This is a time travel, but it's not like the woo woo kind of time travel. It's really great. It is, boy, it's just so heartwarming. I listened to the epilogue, and I listened to it. The author reads an epilogue at the end. It is beautiful. It is like if you don't tear up or flat out cry at some point in this movie, or book, you are very hard hearted. I mean, it is just a love letter to it. So Emma Straub's life is kind of mirrored by this main character who wakes up on her 40th birthday. She has a proposal from a longtime boyfriend. This is set in New York City, um, but she doesn't feel right about it, so she turns down the proposal. She maybe drinks a little too much. It's her 40th birthday. Goes to bed, wakes up, and she's 16.
okay, a little Freaky Friday.
A little
Okay.
Freaky Friday, yeah, the other kinds of things. Peggy Sue Got Married. They refer to a lot of those things. You know what it is? It's just, and again, I'm not always a big fan. If I see time travel, I kind of shy away, but I've loved Ministry of Time, which was time travel. I ended up loving time travel. I don't even know if I think it's impossible anymore. I mean, maybe it is possible. I don't know. Some of these, this one is realistic enough to make you think, huh, maybe that could happen. And the beauty of this one is her dad is ailing in the book, in the present time. He's very, very sick. When she wakes up at 16, 24 years back, her cat, she still has the same cat who's aged, but is still the same cat. Her dad is younger. She and her dad are very close. Mom is not in the picture. She's trying, as a 16-year-old, to change the narrative for her dad, trying to get him to do more healthy things, to stop smoking, to do some things, and to change the narrative down the line for him. Her dad's also an author, just like Emma Straub's dad is an author. And as you go through it, and especially when you get to the epilogue, if you weren't aware, it's like, this is really kind of a love letter to a life well lived, to her dad, to second chances, about what if you had a second chance to relive your life? Maybe you wouldn't even change anything, but you would appreciate some of the messy moments. You would appreciate the little things instead of trying to rush through them. If you realized, that life is fleeting and things of that nature. If you had a second chance, again, not to significantly do things differently. I mean, and she's a very bright woman, even though she does she drinks a little bit too much and she has problems with her relationships, but very likable character. And she realizes pretty quickly what's happening here. She confides in her best friend, who is still her best friend, at 40, but when they're 16 and this best friend is like, her mind is blown, like, I can't believe it. It's witty. She talks a lot about New York City before 9/11, which is her 16-year-old self. And she talks a lot about JFK Jr. She had a big crush on JFK Jr. And when he was he was a big force in New York City at that point in time before he got married and all of that. And like she and her friends were always trying to get hit in the head by him playing Frisbee in New York City in Central Park. She just intersperses these like funny kind of pop culture things that if you remember them, they're really witty, even 20 some years later, but lovable character. I can't say enough about how I kind of hated to see this one end. She was writing this book during the pandemic, and it's another one of those books written during the pandemic. And as she's writing, her dad did pass. But the way it's not as sad as you might think. It's just this very reverent love story. It's not a lot of tears. It's a lot of rejoicing for the what was in the relationship. And it's really, again, it's a really well done, not crazy time travel that you think there's no way. Like I said, I'm not a believer in time travel, but when I read this and I started reading, I'm like, okay, who am I to say it doesn't exist? Because there was enough there to make it seem like possible. It's a really good, it's not just complete flight of fancy. It's a lot of really, really poignant stuff going on there.
And it almost sounds like she wasn't desperate to get back to the point in time she had come from.
No,
like it sounds like she was okay, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
She also knew what time of day and where she had gone through this portal. So she does it more than once. So once she realizes how it came about, she does jump back and forth. I almost said too much. Okay. Yeah. But she does jump back and forth because she realizes how she can do it. And she's kind of like, she was scared by it at first, but when she realizes it's not really harmful, that it can be kind of beautiful and kind of cool, she does it. And you can't necessarily think too hard about how the other people are knowing or not knowing this, but if you just take it as it's written, you're like, okay, it takes you to another reality, and it's kind of a neat reality. And again, just kind of makes you think, if you had this to do over, would you do it differently? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't, but I bet you'd appreciate some of that stuff a lot more or differently, and maybe we'd be wiser. Maybe we wouldn't. Who knows? It's a beautifully done book. And if you do read it or listen, be sure you listen to the author's note at the end, because it really, really pulls it together, and it's beautifully done. And she's written lots of books. I didn't realize she writes like Emily Henry. She writes kind of like Abby Jimenez. It's kind of like the contemporary. You could call it a beach read, but this one has a lot more heart maybe than a beach read. You're going to be affected by this one. I guarantee it. Yeah.
And I love the fact that you came across it because it was available now on Libby, right? So do not discredit what's available now.
Well, exactly. And I have another one of those, the Lisa Jewell, Don't Let Him In. Same thing. I've never read Lisa Jewell in the past. She's very popular.
Ooh, tell us about this.
There we go. So this is a complete con artist. The him they're talking about. You almost need a scorecard to keep track of how many names he goes by, how many professions he claims to have, how many businesses he's owned, how many families he's had. He is not a nice man. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
As it starts to, and again, I listened to this one. Great reading. It's just it's kind of hard to keep track of it at times. I almost at times wished I had a book to go back and be like, wait a minute, who did it say he was and what had he done? And it's kind of cryptic, but what ends up happening is, and again, I can't say too much. It's something you just have to kind of immerse yourself in. It's hard to put down or hard to stop listening to once you're like, what? Just one more chapter. I'm just going to go one more chapter and see how this is explained. He is not a nice man. You end up feeling so sorry for these women. He preys on vulnerable women, and he fleeces women out of anything. He takes loans in their names. He buys cars in their names and then takes off with the car. He's a nasty man. He's very charming. He's actually, you find out at one point, I'm not really spoiling anything, he's basically a paid escort for women who don't really know what his real life is, but he tells them about his real life, which isn't real. Like nothing about this man's life is real. The women finally put their heads together. All the different families start to like put things together. They end up, like, I can't say too much. They do figure out what's going on, and he kind of gets his, and you want that to happen because he's really not nice. He has taken so much advantage of so many people, kids, adults, destroyed people's finances. He's just a nasty, nasty man, but he's super charming at the beginning. He says and does all the right things. And, if you're lonely maybe, or if you're wanting to believe somebody is something and you don't really question why he's gone all the time, or he was always traveling for business. He could explain away just about everything. Somebody finds a wedding ring. That wasn't really a wedding ring. Well, yeah. Well, I've never been married. That was from my fiance that died. We had bought our rings, but he was married. He had how many marriages under his belt by that time? He's terrible.
What a
creep. Terrible man. But it's like deviously, it's kind of delicious. I would call this kind of a beach read, but you do kind of have to pay attention because he's going back and forth between lives, wives, names. It's kind of crazy, but it's really good. I would definitely read a lot more Lisa Jewell.
Okay.
She's very, very good. But again, there it was on Libby, no waiting list. I can't believe it. It's very recent. And how is that possible? Yeah.
Is it like, would you say like a thriller, a mystery, or?
It's a thriller. Not even the psychological kind. So there was a quote here, something about it's more of a domestic thriller than a psychological one. And I would agree with this person who said there's no big suspense hook or jaw-dropping twist. There are some throughout, but eventually it's about the ripple effect a manipulative man can have on vulnerable women and the emotional wreckage he leaves behind. But having said that, it's not necessarily depressing because there's some vindication here as it goes. He didn't win. I mean, it's not really a spoiler because you have a sense he's not going to win, how that all comes about. But, he didn't win. He didn't prevail. And some of these women thought, hey, we're going to outsmart this guy. We're going to do a little detecting on our own. We're going to get some of our own burner phones, whatever sorts of things. He thought he was very arrogant and thought he was smarter than everybody else. But you know what? Turned out he kind of tripped himself up with 1 or 5 too many lies, You kind of want to see that happen because he's so nasty and so
come
smooth.
Up in the end.
Yeah, so suave. But you know what? Not as cool as he thought he was. So... But very good. And again, Lisa Jewell, if you see a Lisa Jewell book anywhere, I would grab it because I suspect they're all this good. She's a British writer and she's written quite a few and she's very good.
Oh, good to know. So when you closed the cover, when you finished this book, well, actually you were listening, but as it finished, there was some satisfaction.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, good, because as it's going, I'm like, please don't let him get away with it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that on my hold list.
People banding together to work together and go, okay, we're gonna make this different and it's gonna stop him from hurting anybody else was another one of the things that kind of banded them together. It's like, yeah, I'm afraid to do this. I don't know how to go about this, but we can't let him keep doing this.
Again, it's like an example, like average people can make a difference by doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think those two, you see those kind of truths in fiction. Fiction is not just fluff. Fiction is a lot of truisms about life, and sometimes it can be inspiring, and sometimes sometimes it just takes you away, and that's okay too. If it's just transportive and just, I want to think about something else. This would be a great summer beach read. It really would, I think, yeah. And probably, I suspect any of her books would be.
Nice. You mentioned that it was well read, right? Like that the
Mhm.
audio performance is good. And I
Yes,
just
really
want to
well
take a
done.
moment to appreciate that because when a book is well performed,
Right,
it's
right.
so enjoyable. I listened to one recently. I can't say what it was
Okay,
because I don't want to disparage it because the
okay.
story was good, but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
performance was so poor. The
yeah.
narrator tried all of these different accents,
Mhm.
and at first I thought there were like six different people in
Right,
this
right.
in this chapter that she was reading, and then I realized there was just one person.
Oh,
She
yeah.
just couldn't keep the accents. It was so off-putting. So anyway,
That's really kind of disturbing. It's like, yeah, and it does just, it distracts and detracts from probably otherwise good story. Yeah.
yeah,
But it can also
absolutely,
make it can make or break. It really can.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
And these two, I think the readers in both of these cases just made an already good story even better, just enhanced it. Yeah.
Awesome. It's exciting to know too that those books were good and that those authors have other books under their belts, so that if you find that you
Exactly.
like it, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would run with either of these. I'd pick up anything by either of these ladies so far and be I think equally enthralled and just captivated and just that one more chapter thing. I've got a problem with one more chapter. I don't really sleep enough sometimes because I'm just one more chapter. Or I will I've told you this, sit in my car because I don't want to stop listening right now. And then why are you sitting in the car? Well, I'm listening to the another couple of paragraphs or whatever. I just can't stop right then. So yeah.
that'll happen to me. Like as I'm going to bed, I'll be like, oh, I just
Right.
want to listen to this book. I can't stop. But
No.
then I fall asleep, and so then in the morning I have that
No.
remorse of, ooh, I have to rewind and figure
Now,
out
how
where I
far
was.
back did I? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I know what you're saying. I get that too.
But
Yeah.
the tip for that is I'll just look at my phone before I start, right?
Okay.
Every time before I start now, I just make it a habit. Now that,
Okay.
okay,
Good.
12%. So in case I fall asleep,
Right.
like I
I
know.
know I was at least that. Okay. Fair enough. That's smart. You are thinking there, young lady. Ah, nice.
All right,
Nice.
tell us about Mailman, My Wild Ride Delivering the Mail in Appalachia and Finally Finding Home by Stephen Starring
Right.
Grant.
This one, I think we just kind of came across this one cataloging it, and I kind of have this, I don't know, fascination with the mail service. The U.S. mail is always kind of interesting to me. Um, right now at the library, shout out to Jose. We've got the greatest mail carrier ever. I'm sure you won't see this, but I'm telling you, we have the most personable, most fantastic mail carrier ever. None of us really can do what we do without mail, delivery people, whatever you want to say, any delivery service. We are so reliant on these folks bringing things to us. We don't always appreciate them. This gentleman starts the book the day the world shut down in March of 20. He is in an airport. He's a consultant. He's got a pretty high powered consulting job. And he loses it almost right on the spot when everything kind of shuts down. He has, I believe he's suffering from prostate cancer. I mean, it's survivable, but he needs treatment, so he needs insurance. He no longer has insurance at this point. He's got to find something quickly. They're hiring rural mail carriers in Blacksburg, Virginia, which is where he lives. He's never had a burning desire to be a mail carrier. He doesn't even understand. Well, he understands what's involved, but he's not like, wow, I can't wait to do this. It's kind of like, I have to do something. He ends up, it is just profound. It's funny. It's exuberant. It's heartwarming. Sometimes it's kind of tear jerking. He is a wonderful writer. He found so much meaning in being a mail carrier, meeting his neighbors, being sometimes the only person they saw during lockdown. And people were doing a lot of
Oh,
shopping by
yeah.
mail. Like the big thing
Yeah.
to wait for is the mail coming. You can't do much else. You're working from home. You're isolated. Oh, but here comes the mail. And he ended up having relationships with people in hollows, in big homes. His mail carrier friends, I mean, who became friends, helped each other out. You learn a lot about, and maybe it's more than you need to know sometimes about specific policies of the U.S. mail. To be honest, you can kind of skip some of that if you want to. But it all boils down to, and he does this pretty well at the end of every chapter, he kind of ends with maybe a paragraph or two of like really inspiring things about being part of people's lives, just having these amazing insights about what the mail means to people, what the written word means to people, what books mean to people, what it means to bring something to someone that they've been waiting for. And this is what's really keeping them going when they don't have much else to look forward to, the human contact. He gets to work very briefly, kind of against regulations. He takes his daughters out with him in the truck one day because he's still trying to figure out at times how to deliver from a not, they drive on the right on those trucks. Well, they were delivering all these packages and he needed somebody to help sort while he's driving and hand him stuff from the left side when you're driving, you're controlling everything with because he didn't have the steering wheel on the right. So he was making all these allowances as he went. And he even forms a bond with his truck, because he had the postal vehicles, but at times he would take out his truck because as the pandemic went on, it was more and more big parcels. You're bringing cases of toilet paper, you're bringing inflatable pools to people, you're bringing all kinds of big stuff because they couldn't do anything else. Yard furniture, whatever, huge boxes. He's fording across creeks with there's one episode with a refrigerator on his back. He's delivering live chickens. He's delivering all kinds of stuff. It reminded me a little bit of Hillbilly Elegy. When Hillbilly Elegy first came on, I think some people learned a little bit about life in Appalachia, or we thought we learned about it, because you can only learn what the person tells you. It wasn't always as respectful to the lifestyle of Appalachia as this one is. This book is so respectful to the people and the hills and the scenery and the education levels, even because this gentleman has been a university lecturer. His dad was a professor at Virginia Tech if you remember when the shootings happened there was an on-campus shooting. His dad was there. His dad's friends, some of them died. I mean, this man has amazing insights. He's got a lot of time on his hands when he's driving by himself, but he's very insightful. He's paying attention, to the world around him and the way the world is changing. And during the pandemic, what people need sometimes is some human contact. And he could provide that, even if it's a here, hello, I'm leaving. Sometimes people would give him lemonade. Sometimes, he bonded with people he didn't expect to meet. He didn't really think he wanted to meet them. Not that he was arrogant, he wasn't, but he wasn't a super warm and fuzzy guy, I don't think. And he changed.
Wow.
It's amazing, how he took the mission of the U.S. Postal Service, and the government still cares about you, and people are still looking out for you. And the simple thing about serving another human being, he took this all to heart. It's a really, like I said, you can skip over some of the procedural stuff. You don't need to know every procedure, but when you get to most of the ends of chapters, mostly, if you read nothing else, I'm telling you, you will just kind of lump in your throat kind of stuff. The guy gets it at some point.
So this really is like a nonfiction retelling, like a memoir of his experience.
Yeah, it's a memoir, and I don't read a ton of memoirs. I would recommend this one to just about anybody. He was a very approachable man, and I think we could see some of ourselves. Most of us could see something of ourselves in him, I think, and maybe how he evolved, and think back to what the pandemic was like. And yeah.
I mean, especially because that is still in such recent memory. It's interesting to read recollections that involve that.
We were talking in my office today about, is there going to be a point in time in the not distant future, maybe, where there are entire college classes on pandemic literature, or, there's enough that was written dealing with it, certainly during it. We've got 2 books here, 2 of these 5, as it happens, kind of centered on the pandemic or occurring during that. And just things like that. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Oh, great. Well, and I think that you're not alone in loving this book, because just before we started the show, I went to my Libby holds and put a hold on this book, and it said several months wait. So
yeah, it's kind of built a following. I think book clubs may be driving, no pun intended, a little bit of that. But yeah, I think it's one of those where the groundswell is just kind of built quietly, and it's a pretty remarkable book. Yeah, you want to see how a person can evolve if they're open to paying attention, to being authentic. It's a pretty cool book. Yeah.
Awesome. We're so lucky to have your recommendations. Okay, Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson.
This one is again. This I listened to on Libby. I waited a while for it, but I became aware of it because some book groups were asking about it. And the premise is the main character, whose name is Poe, P-O-E, after Edgar Allan, is a podcaster, and she runs a true crime podcasting show or podcast where she tells people to call in and tell her what they did. She can't promise you won't be prosecuted. She can't promise any of that, but usually just give a first name, very vague situation. And people kind of like the true crime stuff. So, as we know, she's a pretty popular podcaster. Well, she has someone call in one day, and she mostly can put people's crimes and the horrific things behind her, because she's just doing a show, right? It's no big deal. Not everybody knows, or very few people know, that her mother was murdered when she was a child, and she saw the murderer. She saw the aftermath before the murderer left the house, and then he burned the house. So a lot of the evidence was gone. Okay, so she gets to a point, and it's not early in her podcast. It's just, as her career goes along, she gets a call from someone, and he looks really familiar to her, like maybe she's seen him before. he claims he's her mother's murderer, which is kind of a thing to hear on a live podcast.
Yeah.
But she knows he can't be because she killed her mother's murderer. So, so who's this guy? And he's very creepy. He's super creepy. He's like Silence of the Lambs creepy. Like, he's really creepy.
Oh,
yeah. It's very disturbing. It's actually disturbing. It's really, but it's again, yeah, it's hard to put it down. It's hard to stop listening. It's just one more chapter. Again, we got some twisted people here. We got some great people and some twisted people. We got the extremes here, but it's very good. And I didn't realize either, he's written a fair amount. Carter Wilson has written quite a few books. This would be, oh boy, his maybe 12th book. He's a decent writer. He writes it's really good. It's really captivating. Again, he got some really good reviews. The podcast thing, I think, puts a spin, a more modern spin on some of these things, but there's some pretty graphic stuff here. Like, it's not for the faint of heart. Let's put it that way. It's not overly heartwarming. We've got some really heartwarming stuff here. This is not the most heartwarming of the 5.
If you've maybe had too much heartwarming and you need a palate cleanser to bring it down, maybe throw this one in. Okay.
Yeah. Throw this one in there, and you would almost end up kind of devouring it. It's like, I can't really stop. I just have to know what happens here. She has a love interest. She has a father that she's very close with. So there are a lot of human relationships that she's trying to protect also, because this person is threatening her relationships, and he's a really not nice man, this guy that calls up. He demands the podcast, she's in charge, she's a podcaster, she's in charge, but he kind of blackmails her into doing some live podcasts with him where he's going to reveal some stuff. And because she's so afraid he's going to hurt the people she loves, she ends up allowing him to kind of take over the podcast, and he's got some really ulterior motives. She does have a nice dog, though. She's a very nice dog.
The dog's to the rescue.
The dog's okay. I can reassure you, the dog does not come to harm, because the dog's lovely. So
in Do Not Let Him In, you said the bad guy got his comeuppance in the end.
Yeah.
Is there some comeuppance to look forward to in this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. I can't dispose something where the bad person wins.
Yeah.
I can pretty much tell you that. If the bad person wins, we're not gonna. No.
Okay, good.
I can guarantee you that. Yeah.
All right, so the final recommendation you have for us today is one that's in progress. This is Skylark by Paula McLean. Tell us about
People might know her from The Paris Wife, which is a story of Hemingway's first wife. Again, that was big years ago. I always meant to get to it. I never did. This one came up. I saw it coming through when I was cataloging, and it has some recommendations. Good Morning America, Goodreads. It didn't get the greatest across the board reviews. It doesn't necessarily have a ton of great reviews. There's mixed reviews here. I'm not quite done with it. I'm liking it. It's set in 1664 Paris, where they're mining stone for like Notre Dame and the big cathedrals, and they're learning how to dye, how to produce colors to dye fabric, which was a big thing. Didn't know that was a big thing, but I guess, how did colors come about? I don't know. I didn't know this. So there was a guild, like a master's guild of dyers. That was a big thing. That had like a code of honor and very much about protecting the formulas and things like that. So there's a young lady named Alouette. She is the daughter of a dyer. She discovers an amazing shade of blue, but she can't say she did because she's a woman. Did you see a theme again? Yeah. So her dad, she kind of makes him aware, but he can't really say anything because he's going against the guild. Then he gets in trouble with the guild. She ends up in a prison, in a women's asylum in 1664. It's not a really good place to be. Some things come about. Someone informs on her dad. Her dad ends up in prison. She ends up in prison. She had met, before she was taken away, she had met a really, really nice young man who was mining the big pieces of slate and stone, named Etienne. So there's a little bit of a love story, not spicy, but a little bit of a love story. So there's Paris at that time. And then we move forward to 1940s Paris, where just before the Nazis occupy, so we get into World War II era, there's a Jewish family who's come in from Warsaw, goddess of Warsaw, that whole thing. Again, I learned a lot about, I should have known these things. I've read Sarah's Key. I've read some books about the occupation. I still don't always think about when the Nazis came in and occupied, they took what they wanted. They emptied the hospitals of mentally ill people because they needed the hospitals. They took away people's homes. They took away their businesses. They took what they wanted, not just from the Jewish, citizens, just from
Right.
anybody. Anybody had what they wanted, too bad. We're taking it. So, yeah, it's just disturbing. It's disturbing to think about it. But what you see here is the Paris above the ground in 80 years ago, kind of contrasted with the Paris below the ground in the 1660s, where literally all this work. I never really thought either about how they got the stone for these big cathedrals. I mean, it didn't grow out of the ground. The cathedrals had to be constructed by
Yeah.
big pieces of stone. How many people died under the ground because they didn't care. These folks were expendable. You're just a miner, whatever. They don't care. They'll hire somebody else. They'd have these young kids come there, and strong kids, and break the fissures and underneath the city. And so there still is this whole system of tunnels underneath Paris, which still exists. And I think a lot of European cities probably have that.
And so you're saying the stones that were used
Mhm.
for some of the cathedrals,
Yeah.
they just mined from underground.
Right. Yeah, I
I
didn't
never
know
I
that.
never thought
I mean,
about
I
that.
never thought of that either. Who thinks about this stuff? You just kind of take it for granted. You kind of think, how did they get it up there? Like, how in the world did they hoist that up there? But where did it come from? These immense pieces of stone had to come from under the ground. And who did it? Well, not the upper classes. Let's put it that way.
Right,
Not the
right.
people who had other resources, the people who had no choice. So the other, I'm not quite to this point, but I think what's going to happen in 1940s Paris is there's a young doctor who's befriending a Jewish family. He's from the Netherlands, but he's in Paris studying. He ends up befriending this Jewish family, but he's familiar with the tunnels underneath Paris because he had a doctor friend at this hospital who knew the tunnels and took him under the tunnels. They did this kind of like a lark and an adventure. So I'm quite sure that's where this is going to be going, and where it does go is that he knows maybe how to spirit people away to the tunnels when there's no other escape.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
really doing a nice job, I think, of uniting those two worlds. You're seeing the common. Yeah.
It's so interesting to think about the tunnels, and
Yeah.
then that almost makes it seem like a natural or logical step to
Mhm.
then their underground metro and subway system.
It does, I guess, doesn't it? When you think about it, sure. Yeah. If that exists already, and they're used to those kinds of things. We don't, I mean, what do we have for a frame of reference in Manitowoc? We don't
Nothing, yeah.
underground know nothing like that. So anyway, I think it's a good book. It's long. It is long, so it's taken me a little longer than I thought to get through it, but it's really quite good. And this one too, I just want to read one more chapter, just one more chapter. And it bounces between the timelines, of course, but it's so obvious which time you're existing in. It's not like you get confused. You're 300 years apart. You're going to know which timeline you're in. So
So you mentioned some of the reviews were a little, lukewarm or not as
yeah,
exuberant about it. What are some of the naysayers'
I don't.
comments?
She's not a big fan of the critics. Critics don't love her. I don't know that they just don't. I don't know why exactly. They just were not. It wasn't like 5 stars. It wasn't even 4 stars. It was just below 4 stars. So there are people that I just don't know that they appreciate her writing, or they think the characters are one dimensional. I don't know. I didn't find that to be true. But I'm no critic. I just like a story. I'm not really looking for like all literary devices and does this, is this everything 100%? I think historically it's accurate. I think as far as human behavior, it's accurate. I'm sure there's things I don't know that it's not. I've never been to Paris. I mean, I'm sure there's things that maybe she took license with that maybe some people don't like. Yeah, it's not universally beloved. I don't know. I feel like she writes really well. I don't know why she doesn't have more of a fan base. She has a fan base, but she's not like Kristen Hanna, where people like everyone loves her. She's kind of unknown. You can probably find some of her books, and this is about her. Oh my goodness, eighth or so book she's written. She writes novels. She writes novellas. She's got a few collections. This would be her sixth book. So she's been writing since 2008.
Okay.
You can find her books around, and I would give her a try as far as historical fiction. She writes, I think, a very good, very captivating story.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be up my alley. I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so just to review, you recommended today to us Skylark by Paula McLean and Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson, Don't Let Him In by Lisa Jewell, Mailman by Stephen Starring Grant, and This Time Tomorrow by Emma Straub. So this time tomorrow, what do you think you'll be reading, Laura?
Um, well, I'm reading one right now, listening to one right now called Not Dead Yet. Not quite dead yet. It's kind of it's by a young adult author, but again, it's got a little twist to it. A very, very different story. Maybe we'll talk about it later. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. One of my friends recommended, and I really like it. And I'm going to finish reading Skylark. And
Okay.
then the next book I'm going to read, and we'll talk about that for sure in fall, is the latest one by Kathleen Stockett, who wrote The Help. She finally came out with a new book, just been released, called The Calamity Club. And I believe it's Mississippi in the 1930s. So I'm really excited to read that one next. I'm hearing great things about that one.
Interesting. I'm currently listening to, it's called Britt Marie Was Here, and it's by the author Frederick Bachman.
Oh,
So
right,
he
right.
wrote My Friends. You recommended that on a previous show, which
Sure.
I loved. I loved that book from the very first sentence.
Yep, it's a
And so I've gone down like a Frederick Bachman
Have you?
rabbit
Good
hole.
for
Oh,
you.
yeah. And the thing
Nice.
is, every book has been delightful.
Yeah, he writes, but he started with Man Called Ove. At least that's the first one most of us were aware of. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think he misses the mark too often. No.
Yeah. So, and then you brought up a good point. So, viewers, this is going to be our last Coffee on the Coast with the library for this summer. We're just going to take a little hiatus so everyone can go out and read all of these great recommendations and enjoy your summer. And then we'll be back right after Labor Day.
Perfect. Looking forward to it already.
My guest today, Laura Schreiner, Manitowoc Public Librarian. So good to see you, Laura. Thank you for all of the great recommendations and enjoy all of your summer reading.
Always a pleasure. We'll talk later. Take care.
I'm your host today, Tina Prigge, for this episode of Coffee on the Coast. Take care, everyone.